All right, what is going on, guys, and welcome back to Redline Nation Racing. My name is Godby.
And my name is Dylan, and this is the Catchin Grip podcast.
Well, we have decided that we would give a podcast thing a go because I don't know, it seemed to be fun. It's the off season and it's something to do for the channel. So we hope you guys do enjoy why we started this because it seems like it'll be fun. What do you think?
Personally, I think podcasts serve a number of good. I don't know what we're looking for here, but um, podcasts are good because for me personally, I like to listen to podcasts while I'm at work. I'll listen to them while I'm out doing something. Podcasts can serve a number of purposes. It's good for any time if you don't have time to actually sit down and watch a video or something like that. You can always just listen to a podcast. So with it being the off season and us not having any actual racing content to film where we're at, I think this is probably about the perfect substitution.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. So you want to start off what we're gonna go on with today?
Well, we with today's first edition of the podcast, we were kind of wanting to introduce ourselves for those that don't know a whole lot about us. We're hoping to explain why we started the channel, our intro into racing, uh, what got us into it, and what made us grow to love it as much as we do today, and how we met. Because if you've been paying attention to the channel long enough, you know that I, Dylan, live in Michigan, and Godby lives in West Virginia, and that's kind of an odd combination for two friends that work together on a YouTube channel.
Like
So we'll get into that further
pretty
into
far
the
distance.
podcast here. And then also we just kind of want to give a quick overview of the season. Um, Let you know some things that happened, maybe behind the scenes a little bit, and kind of give our thoughts on some of the things that happened on camera.
Oh, to start off, well, he already said my name's Godby, and I'm from West Virginia, like you said. Uh, I don't remember exactly how I got into racing. All I can really remember is I, I want to say my family. And I want to say it was my father was really upset about Dale Earnhardt passing. I didn't really know Dale Earnhardt. I was born mid '90s, so I was 7 years old when no 6 when Dale Senior passed. So I was more of a Dale Junior fan growing up because my dad had NASCAR on every weekend, and once I remember childhood from I want to say 10, 11, 12, going off from there. My dad took me off at dirt track in Beckley. It was Beckley Motor Speedway back then, and I don't know. It was the thing that stuck with me. I went almost every weekend as a kid. My dad even ended up getting a race car, raced it a few times, sold that, got a better car. It was out. First car was a street stock. Second car was a outlaw modified. They call it was a Monte Carlo with a super late model engine in it. And 20. He said it was about $20,000 motor, but had that for a while. Had a few drivers drive for him, and that was about it of my dad racing and all. But yeah, we went to the races a lot. I moved out and I stopped going to the races for a while. And it was the year before last, COVID year. I was just sitting around and I was like, well, wonder what Beckley's doing because I haven't been there in a while and I wonder if they're actually going to be racing. And I checked the Facebook and lo and behold, they were racing that year. So I ended up just going out there for the year and just enjoyed it and just started going back and just instantly fell back in love with racing. And it's it's a good thing. You've met so many people, you made so many friends in racing. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely, it's the overwhelming kindness from the racing community, regardless of whether you're in dire need of something or just looking for a friend or something. You know, it's unreal. Um, into my background in racing, it's kind of a similar story. Ever since I was a little kid, my uncle, well, both of my uncles raced for a period of time. Most of my cousins raced. Um, and I just have a lot of memories from the time I was like 5, 6, 7 years old going to the racetrack. Uh, Racetrack was Owendale Speedway back then. It's now known as Silver Bullet Speedway. You've seen it in the YouTube channel. Uh, it was, I think it was Owendale Speedway back then. I could be wrong about that. But my uncle would go. He started off with a street stock and eventually worked his way up to a limited late model. And they also had buddy Steven. I think he was like 16 back then when I was younger, watching them, all those guys race. And I just remember always being in the shop with them while they were working on the race cars. Uh, kind of, obviously, I was really, really young, so I didn't really get to pick up a whole lot about working on the cars, but I had interest in being there. I wanted to watch them work on them. I wanted to be in the cars playing. And then when it came race day, I was always watching the race cars. The sound, it would always, the sound of the race car, the rumble, the feel of it would always get me going. Um, and I have one fond memory, autograph night, the one year when I was younger. Our buddy Steven, he drove his street stock over there, and everybody that wanted to go over there we're all always over in the pits, and on autograph night, everybody from the pits would go over and sign autographs. Um, so everybody always wanted to ride on my uncle's late model when we went over there, but I chose to ride my buddy Steven's street stock. So while he was off in the stand signing autographs, I decided I was gonna stay in his race car and pretend like I was racing. And some some lady, I don't know who she is now or where she is, but she walked by with her young son that was close to my age and pointed out that I was driving the race car, that I was going to be a race car driver someday. And that just kind of stuck with me. That's one of my most fond memories as a kid. And then after a while, I got out of racing for a long time. And a few years back, shortly after I turned 18, I got back into racing and started watching it on TV a little bit, looking up some YouTube stuff on it, and I decided to see what was going on out at the old track, just like Godby did. And I reached out to my buddy Steven and seeing if he was still racing, and sure enough, he was. So I went out there, and he was driving a IMCA modified that year, and I kind of just hung out with him and watched the races, and it kind of just relit that fire for racing, and I've just been going ever since. And I've had a blast.
I'll tell you one thing, like a fond memory of mine at Beckley. I was, I want to say maybe 13, go 12, 13, something like that. And the announcer was doing like trivia questions for prizes, and he announced that he was about to do it. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go about halfway up the bleachers because my family, for some reason, they wanted to always sit at the bottom bleacher, like the bottom part of the section on the grandstand. So I decided to go halfway up the bleachers, waited for the question, and the question finally came. In mind, I'm 12, 13 or so, and the announcer was like, "All right, so this is for the kids only. Whoever can get up here and answer this question first will win this prize." I'm not going to spoil the prize yet. I'll get to it in a second. But he was like, "How? What does race car spell backwards?" And I instantly knew it. I was a chunky kid. Same now. I was a chunky kid when I was a kid. I ran up the steps more like waddled. ran up the steps, and I was the first one there. And I looked at him. I was like, "It spells race car," and I won the prize. The prize was a I don't know exactly the size of it, but it was a big poster picture of a driver we followed on the channel before, Chris Meadows, number 33, super late model driver. I had a big picture of his. I don't know where it's at, but I'm pretty sure it's still somewhere at my dad's old place. But it was pretty cool. So
Yeah, that's definitely one of those things you just don't forget. I'm sure you could talk to just about anybody, any driver, any fan. Somebody's gonna have that story, just that one story from racing that sticks with them to this day.
yeah, that's one of my favorite moments as a kid because that was a big poster. That was a big moment. So
Right. So, one thing a lot of people are probably wondering is, as we talked about in the introduction, I'm from Michigan and Godby's from West Virginia. How did we meet? How did we become friends? How did we come up with the idea to work together on a YouTube channel? And that's an interesting story.
oh yeah.
You want to go ahead and get into that one?
Oh well, yeah, sure. Well, it was I believe it was COVID year, same year that I got back into to going to my local track. But there was a video game that released. It was Tony Stewart's All American Racing for the PS4, Xbox. What was it?
I think it was the Xbox One.
Yeah, Xbox One. I want to say Series X, but that's a new one for some reason. But uh, yeah, I just started playing it. I just would get into random lobbies, and then one day Smith was in a lobby, and there was a few other people that they were racing. They've been racing for a few for a few races, and probably for a few days before. We got into a party with a guy named Tricky Ricky. I remember that. I remember this. Our first game was a guy with Tricky Ricky. Um, we were sitting there racing. He was wrecking us. We're all wrecking each other, having a good time and such. And it was I don't know. We just it was a friendship connected over a video game, and ever since then it was just we've just stayed in touch. We've been friends since you know. So it's
You know, a lot of people they're always skeptical about meeting people online. They say it's dangerous and you shouldn't do it. And don't get me wrong, there is definitely dangers to it. It could definitely be dangerous. So anyone listening to this, if you're planning on going to meet somebody that you met online or have never met in person, be very careful. Do make sure you do plenty of research. Have people that can help you if things do go bad. Just make sure that you're safe before you go. But in this case, we had known each other for how long had we known each other before we met? We probably over a year or close to a year.
uh I
We
want
had
to
known each other quite a
say
while.
it'll be two 2 or 3 years now or so.
No, we've known each other for a little over 2 years now. I'm talking about before I came down to Beckley.
Uh, it was COVID year that I
It
started
was
going back to the races that we met. So that was 2020. So
yeah, that
2021,
was
we talked
that
about
was in July,
2021 of July. That's when he came
and
down.
we had met shortly after I moved, and I moved in October. So it had been about 8 months, 7 months, something like that, and we had gotten to know each other fairly well. So long story short, just make sure that you know what you're getting into before you go meet a friend that you meet online. Just make sure you're safe. But um, I also do recommend highly doing that because I met one of my best friends doing that, and I have no regrets.
Also,
Um,
don't make friends with people that you think are your friends and you help them out and give money and they decide to stab you in the back and just disappear and don't want to pay you back. I'm not going to mention any names, but that has happened.
yeah, that has definitely happened. I remember that fondly. Um, but with that being said, that is how we met. We did meet through a video game. Um, and on that video game, after a while of, just messing around, running random races with our friends, we decided that we wanted to start uh, an online competitive league on that game. And it was me, Godby, a buddy of ours named Mocha at the time. That was his online name. And uh, there was a fourth guy we're not going to mention
Yeah, that's the guy.
due
We're
to
not going to
due,
mention
due
names.
to
No
other
gamer
issues.
tags, no names, nothing like that.
Um, but the four of us decided that we wanted to start a racing league to kind of just give us something to do during the off season for racing. We ran a different track every week. It added up points, and there was a champion at the end of the year. And we decided to name that Redline Nation Racing. And that kind of stemmed into we were gonna start filming like a podcast or something back then. It just kind of never worked out. Um, and then we ended up having issues with that fourth named person, and we're not gonna go too into depth on that. But like I said, we had issues with them. So then it was kind of just down to three people, and our other buddy, he ended up having some personal stuff come up with work and personal life, and he had his own reasons to not be quite as big of a part of it. And
Love you,
we're, we're
Mocha.
still we're still good friends with him. We talk to him every once in a while. Um, but he decided that he wasn't going to be as big of a part of it. So at that point, it was just me and Gabby. And so then we're running this racing league online, and the season ends, and real racing season's about to start. And we're both huge fans of Hunt the Front. You've seen in this year's Beckley USA 100 video, Godby got to meet Hunt the Front. That was pretty cool. We're huge fans of them. I've been watching them since shortly after they started their channel. Probably, I want to say November of 2019. No, before that. But regardless, we're huge fans of theirs. We've been watching them for a long time.
I've been watching since COVID year 2020 because there was nothing really to do. Everyone was home watching videos and stuff on YouTube, so that's how I was introduced to Hunt the Front.
Right. So we got into that, and that year after our racing league had ended and actual racing season was coming to a start, I had mentioned the idea of why don't we try that? And Godby liked the idea, and that weekend was opening night at my home track, so I got on my iPhone, uh, filmed a little vlog of it was Gavin Hunyadi. He had just got his backup car because he wrecked that year at the Bristol Dirt Nationals. Um, and he let me film with him. He was filming his own YouTube video, and he actually gave me a shout out. That was really cool, really cool. So, Gavin, if you're watching this video, thank you. You helped start this channel off in a really good way, and I really appreciate that. But then Godby went to his first race that year, and I'll let him dig into that a little farther.
Yeah, that year I think the first video I did was opening night with a buddy of mine. Back before I had the break in between when I was a kid and COVID year going back to the races. Uh, I had my buddy Patrick that we follow a lot on the channel now. Um, we were actually friends as kids, and I took a break for a while from the races. And in COVID year, uh, I looked him up. I was like, I wonder if I could find him. And I realized that he's actually on the track racing. And when we were kids, we were always up in the top of the grandstands, behind the grandstands, something not even looking at the track, whatever. but we still liked it. We still loved racing. But he's actually on the track racing now, so I thought it was pretty cool. I was like, well, what the heck? Opening night of 2021, why not follow him around? I had a little, I think it was LG Stylo 6. It was a pretty crappy phone. I'm sorry for the quality of them videos, but it's all I had. But I mean, I feel like from that style of quality of videos that we started, I feel like our videos now have 10 times improved, which I'm really proud of. And
Very much so.
I, I just, there's one person I got to thank. It was Zack Dome. Zack Dome. He's been another big part of the channel. He's uh, the 2021 Beckley USA 100 that Dylan came down to actually watch and witness. It was one heck of a race, and him winning and him like allowing us to share the moment with him and record that moment. That video has 18, 19,000 views to this day. I mean that's our second best video. But Zach Dome was one of the drivers that really put this channel on the radar. So we just really had to thank Zach Dome and crew for everything y'all done.
Absolutely. Those guys, not only have they let us work with them at the racetrack, but they've also just been some of the nicest, kindest people to us that I could ever even think about meeting at the racetrack. Those guys are awesome.
Like absolutely, that goes back down to the friends that you make in the family. Well, not really friends. It's the family that you gain in racing. But a racing family is a family. Like it's 100% a thing. Like it's you can't ask for better people that's around racing. Like it's they'll give the shirt off their back for you if needed. So it's I can't explain it.
Pri-
It's
Prime example to that being a while back with Nick Hoffman. When Nick Hoffman and his father were in that wreck, people from all over the racing community chipped in to help. Carl Edwards was helping. I believe Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was helping. Those guys are from NASCAR. They don't usually have a whole lot to do with dirt track racing, but it's the racing community and they chipped in to help.
right. It's a beautiful thing. The racing family, racing community, the friends of family. It's a wonderful thing. And if you don't go out to the races, if you don't make these friends, and if you don't go out and meet people like this, you're missing out. Like it's you got to find the right ones. But when you find the right ones, keep them close.
Now, kind of getting off of that topic a little bit and continuing on where we were going. This season has just been absolutely outstanding for us. We we exceeded our true expectations with this season. We had set a goal at the beginning of the season. We wanted to hit 1,000 subscribers, and we came up a little bit short of that. But realistically, we exceeded at least my expectations for the season. I didn't think that we would actually get to the point where we are, but I had a goal in mind. And as I'm looking at it right now, we actually have 843 subscribers, and that's absolutely fantastic. That's amazing, and it's in no small thanks to you guys watching right now.
I mean,
You guys make what we do possible, and it's just, thank you all.
you got to think as well, though. At the end of our first year, 2021, we ended the year with what 332 subscribers, something like that. It was in
I
the low
remember
300s.
at one point during the off season, I kept checking, and we hovered right around 360, 365.
Right, and we were like in the mid 300s or so, and we started the year with expectations of trying to make it out to our local tracks every weekend, trying to make it out to other tracks every weekend to put out content to be able to get our 1,000 subscribers. And like you said, we came up a little bit short, but that's okay because the audience that we gained is what 500, almost 500 of you
Yeah,
guys that we've gained in a year. That's 200 plus more than we had last year, and I couldn't be more grateful. So thank you guys.
um, like he said, when we came into this season, our goal was to make it out to the track every weekend, try to film a video every weekend just to get the content out there. Because the more content you make, the more people will see it. And we accepted that, and we set our mind to put out as much content as possible this year. And honestly, if you watched our all of our videos this year, you'll think to yourself, where was Dylan? He wasn't really there a whole lot this year. I filmed maybe 3 or 4 videos this year, I think. And honestly, I wish I was able to do more, but I actually struggled with some financial issues this year due to switching jobs. A few times I switched. Uh, I think I had 3 jobs this year. I'm on my 3rd job right now. Just issues kept coming up. It wasn't working out with certain jobs, and now I'm on to my 3rd job this year, and it seems to be going well. I'm hoping this ends up being a good job for me for a long time. It seems to be going well, and as long as I'm in this position again next year, I think next year will be a great year for me, content-wise on YouTube, being able to get back to the track.
Oh yeah, like I I know I picked up a lot of the videos this year, and I'm okay with that. But I mean, Dylan had some stuff to do. He, like he said, he had some issues going on, financial issues. I had no problem with it. Yes, I give him some crap here and there just to pick around with him, but it's not really like actually being serious. But I mean, I enjoyed what I
And
did this year.
and what, like we said earlier, we're gonna get into some of the behind the scenes stuff. What a lot of people don't see is, even though I wasn't at the track filming, I was always, when Godby was at the track, I was always texting him, wondering what's going on, how's, Patrick or Zack or whoever we're following that weekend, how they're doing. I was always checking on them, and anytime Godby wanted any advice with, what we should do edits wise, I was giving him my input. I was, you know, checking stuff. Anytime he needed help with something that I could do, I was always trying to help. I tried to do what I could with what I had this year.
And you were a big help. I mean, I don't want to get too much into it, but I mean, with Patrick's first win, as soon as he won, the first person I called was Dylan. First person I called, and then he answered the phone. He's like, "Hello." I was like, "You're not gonna believe it." He was like, "What?" I was like, "Patrick freaking won." He's like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "Patrick freaking won." Out of breath. I already ran from across the track all the way across back, out of breath, feeling like I needed to just lay down on the ground and just go to sleep. Is how bad I was, but I was still just. I called him, let him know what happened. It's just he's been there a lot of the steps of the way, so.
Another another big development this year was full access to the GoPros. That was one thing that I really liked having this year. What about you?
What do you mean the full access? What?
We were able to put the GoPros on the cars
Oh
for the
yeah,
whole race this year.
oh yeah. Like being able to do that, and again, another driver, and you're gonna hear him mentioned a lot, and he'll probably end up being on the podcast one day. But Patrick Solari, he's one heck of a guy. Rick, his dad. I mean, that's them two people. Them two guys right there are probably the best people to have in your lives. They'll do anything to make sure to see you succeed, and they want to see the channel succeed. They helped us get stickers. They bought us protective housing for my GoPros for the cars to make sure I get footage for the races. They want to make sure that we succeed for the channel, and I'm forever grateful for that. They're the best people, and Patrick's one of my best friends, and I love him to death. So it's like I said again, the racing family is the best family you can have.
If you think about it, going back to the 2021 season, the year that I came down for the Beckley USA 100, um, we had just gotten our GoPros. I know I had bought mine a few weeks prior, and I think you had just bought yours the week prior, and we didn't have any cases for them. And at that point in time, I was in a decent financial situation. Obviously, I was paying for trips to come down to West Virginia, and then it kind of just spiraled from
I'm
there.
not gonna go from
But
there.
uh, at that point in time, I was pretty happy with where I was financially, and I thought I had a good amount of money, so I wasn't too concerned. And I decided that I was going to put my camera on Zach's car for qualifying, only for qualifying, because obviously we didn't have the cases, and I knew that it was more than likely not going to end well if I put it on there during an actual race. But we decided to put it on there for qualifying, and that was some of the coolest footage I had ever seen, especially on my phone or something that I had done, you know.
Right.
And I think that's what ultimately inspired us to keep really trying to find some alternative to keep going with in-car footage with the GoPros. That was awesome.
Well, you got to think though. Before even putting the camera on Zach's qualifying, we actually put it on Patrick's car at Princeton 2 nights before. So I mean, that was
Oh
cool
yeah,
footage. Yeah,
you did put yours on there. You put it on there for what was it? Hot laps?
hot laps and qualifying, or it was just qualifying. I can't remember.
Now that I think about it, I do remember that.
Yeah.
That weekend was absolutely insane for me because if you look at some of the videos from up here in Michigan, that I'm gonna be honest, they're a little bit boring. I hate to use that word because they're really not boring. Racing in general is awesome, but it's not as intense. And when I went down there, I got to see those UMP modifieds, and I got to see the super late models, and that was some of the craziest, most intense racing I've ever seen, and that was awesome for me.
Yeah, like Beckley knows, like that track is known to put on one heck of a show when it comes to any class. Like any class can run on that track and have a competitive race. Now, um, I had something I was gonna say. It was at the tip of my tongue, and I can't remember. I'll get back to it. I just, I mean, it was a fun that year last year. It was fun. Like with you coming down, that was a blast, and you had a what is the word that I'm thinking of? A impromptu extra few days here because for your flight getting canceled.
Okay, there's a lot to that. There was some ups and downs to that for me. I don't remember if I told you, but I'm gonna tell our subscribers and you at the same time if I haven't. So what had happened there is I was scheduled to be down there for 7 days. I was landing in on it was June 30th, I believe, and I was scheduled to leave July 7th. I had booked a flight round trip, and I flew in like planned on June 30th. Um,
Yeah, the flight in was fine, no problems really.
Personally, I don't like flying anymore, but it is what it is. um, but everything went as expected there. And we spent the late part of that week just kind of getting to know each other because obviously that was the first time we had met in person. And then we spent that weekend at the racetrack. We went Friday and Sunday to the racetrack and had an absolute blast. And then we hung out again Monday and Tuesday, and I was supposed to leave that Wednesday. And my flight had gotten canceled because uh, the city of Beckley's, in comparison to normal cities, it's kind of a small city. Um, so they don't have a huge airport, and so when you're flying in and out of there, you have to take a smaller plane. And I don't know what happened, but somehow my flight had gotten canceled 3 times, 3 days in a row. And well, actually, I think it was 2 days in a row. Man, I don't remember exactly, but the flight had gotten canceled, and I had just started a new job at that time. I was pretty cool with my boss at the time, and he had gave me the week off because I had the trip already booked for a ways back, and I had that trip planned in advance for a long time. Um, so he gave me that week off, and I ended up having to call my boss from Godby's house and say, "Hey, this happened. I don't have a way back right now, so I'm gonna be a little bit longer." And he was cool with it. I was very appreciative of that. Um, and it ended up taking me 3 days to finally get away out of there. And at some point, I ran out of options, and I had Godby get on his phone, and we ended up booking me a bus ticket back to Michigan. And I had my mom pick me up at the Detroit bus station back in Michigan. Um, and so I had fun those 3 days that we were there. But one thing that a lot of people don't know is on the 4th of July, the night that we were at the Beckley USA 100, I had an uncle that was killed in a motorcycle accident. Um, and I ended up missing his funeral because of that. And so there was ups and downs to that. It was a fun trip. I don't regret going at all. I wouldn't change a single thing. But I know missing that funeral kind of took a toll.
Right.
And
I actually remember you telling me about that, and I didn't know you was going to bring that up. I'm sorry. Like I told you before, I'm sorry about that. You know, and
well, it wasn't your fault.
I know.
And full transparency, I wanted to be open and honest with everybody on the podcast. I mean, if we're gonna be full behind the scenes, this is the place to do it, and
Right. Right.
I'm not ashamed of it, you know.
Well, let's switch gears and not be sad, and let's talk more about our season, because you had your opening night at Silver Bullet, and you followed, who was that you followed this year for opening night?
This year I followed Chad Bennett. That was cool. Chad's a guy that's been racing at Silver Bullet for a long time. Uh, Honestly, I think he was racing back when I was a kid. So I haven't really known him for a long time, but I've known of him for a long time. But I got to know him a little bit last year. I talked to him, I think, a time or two, and then this last off season, I reached out to him and decided I was gonna try to follow him for most of the season, and then the season just didn't quite work out the way I planned it to. But it was pretty cool. Chad's a great guy. I would gladly work with him again if he was willing. He's got a fast car. Uh, I had no complaints working with Chad.
You know what? I just remembered, and I can't remember. I can't believe I forgot about this, and I wanted to mention it. But how was it working with Ken Schrader?
Oh my goodness, that was awesome. Ken Schrader is actually a really cool guy. That was interesting. I had gotten in contact with the owner of Silver Bullet Speedway. That this was 2021 season. This was last year. Um, I had reached out to him as soon as I found out that he was having that event, and uh, he actually sponsored us for that video. He got me into the track and let me work with Ken. And I showed up to that race way earlier than I really needed to, honestly, because I wanted to be the first person to go talk to Ken. Um,
Nice.
I really didn't even need to do that because there wasn't anybody else there trying to do what I was doing. But so I got there and I went to his trailer and I asked one of his crew members if I could talk to him, and they got him for me. And I asked him if I could throw a camera on his car and work with him for the night, and he was on board. He was all for it real quick. And he was like, "Yeah, let's get it done. Do whatever you got to do. My crew guys will help you if you need it." Um, so we ended up getting the camera on his car, and I found out the hard way after that race that Ken Schrader does not like being called a NASCAR legend. Yeah, that's a very good memory. I went to interview him and I said NASCAR legend, and he said no, 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 just old. That was
Well,
hilarious.
in my opinion, he is a NASCAR legend as well, so he'll have to deal with that. Sorry, Ken.
Yeah, I view him as a legend too because honestly, my only real memory of Ken Schrader racing was watching videos of the Dale Earnhardt wreck, as you talked about in the beginning.
Yes.
And Ken Schrader was right there at the front of the Daytona 500 at the end of the race. And if you're that close to the front at the end of that race, you got to be doing something right. So I consider him a legend. He's well known in the sport, and that's just my thought. He doesn't view himself as a legend. There ain't nothing wrong with that either. That just means he's humble.
Exactly. My start of the season for this year, 2022, I actually got a hold. Beckley ended up under new ownership. It transferred from Beckley Motorsports Park under Robert Mooney to Beckley Motor Speedway under Randy Kinder. And we'll get more in detail of how this all went into fruition later on. I just smacked my mic, so if it just like made noises, I'm sorry. But we'll get more fruition in another podcast, like in another future one. But I got a hold of Randy and asked him. I was like, "Would you mind to do a interview for the YouTube channel?" And Randy was just straight up on board. He was like, "Yes, yes, I'll be at the track on this day. Come here at around this time, and whatever time's good for you." And we figured out a time. I was a few minutes late, and he actually had a podcast with the American All-Star Pro Late Model Series under Joseph Rush. He was doing a podcast with him prior. So I waited for him to do that, which I had no problem doing. And once he was done with that, we set up a little area in one of the offices in the grandstand boxes, and we had a really good interview. He went into really in depth of what he wanted to do with the track, and he has held up to his word so far. And I've been impressed with the way the track has progressed and how we're getting we've got a new concession stands in the pits. We've got a new what do you want to call it? A new tech shed in the pits. Like that thing's big. He's put in a decent amount of money in Beckley to help it get better, and it's us as fans here in Beckley, we appreciate that. I mean, he's I can't I can't explain how much he's done for the track, but we appreciate it. Now, after that, we tried for a season opener to put a camera on TJ Salengo's car, and we got hot laps done, and it started raining, so it rained out. So my official grand opening video of Beckley was it was a super late model race with Zack Dome. I just cannot remember what it's called for the life of me. I'll have to go back and look at it, but it was a fun night. Busted a case on the first night. I'm pretty sure. We busted a case on the first night.
That race was a 7,500 to win super late model race.
I'm glad you're doing the research because I'm not. Yeah, it was.
I already had YouTube open anyway, so
Good. That's good. Yeah, we did that. Like we said, Zach's a true sport. I appreciate him letting us put the camera on his car. And what was the next one after that? I actually have it pulled up right here because I needed to see, because I had to go down memory lane. Next one after that, we actually had a fan appreciation night. We followed Patrick Solari in the American All-Star Series. It was a weekly show. And I think he got... Man, I really should have done some research in these videos before we talked about it. So we'll have to dig more in. We'll have to dig more into the videos, because I've done so many this year. A lot of the videos just mesh into a Chinese finger trap. But I think the biggest video that we had this year is obviously Hunt the Front out of nowhere decided to come and race the 20,000 win Beckley USA 100, the 2022 race. And I was actually luckily to get a interview with Joseph Joyner himself, which I wasn't really expecting. And I mean, I'm kind of gun shy when it comes to meeting way more famous people than I've ever thought about meeting at my dirt track. So going up and talking to them was kind of nerve wracking. But once I went and talked and actually had a conversation, the nicest guys, the nicest people you'd ever meet. So if Hunt the Front is around you guys, go meet them, go talk to them. Nicest people ever. But
I can't imagine how you felt right then and there, because I remember when I was down there, I was starstruck by just Jonathan Davenport, let alone the people that I've idolized for a long time.
right? Yeah, and if it wasn't for them coming down, I do not believe that that video would have 29,000 plus views on it right now. If it wasn't for them. So, Hunt the Front, Joseph, Jonathan, Jesse, thank you all for coming down and racing at my little hillside of a track called Beckley, because you guys actually gave us the best viewed video on the channel. So we appreciate that.
Alright, and with that being said, we're a little over time that we had planned. Thank you guys for tuning in to our first edition of the Catch and Grip podcast presented by Redline Nation Racing. Gabby, you got anything else?
Uh not that I can think of. I just, like I said, I want to thank Patrick Solari, Zack Dome, Henry Hornsby, Chris Meadows, uh, all the drivers that I've followed this year, last year. We appreciate you guys for actually letting us follow you, letting us actually put the camera on your car, and yeah, it's been a good 2 years, and I look forward to doing more podcasts and looking forward to the next racing season. And yeah, and also thank you to Right Way Auto Beckley for actually sponsoring for a few videos for the channel this year. Appreciate that. Appreciate the work that you've done on my car. It was truly appreciated.
And on my end, huge thank you to uh, Chad Bennett. Obviously, we talked about him earlier in the podcast. And one guy we didn't talk about that I did work with this year. Thank you to Brennan Cascadden. He helped us out this year. He let us follow him, gave us some merchandise at the end of the race, put on a great show in the video. Huge thank you to those guys. And that's it. That's all I got.
All right. Well, with that being said, thank you guys for watching and listening to our first podcast. And like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And we'll see you guys in the next one, or hear you guys in the next one. I don't know exactly how you want to see it or hear it, but yeah.
See you guys later.
Bye.